Never knew what I was waiting for, but my time was running wild, a million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I'd got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me, but I never caught a glimpse, while the others see the faker. I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes and face the strange changes. Gonna be a richer man. Changes, turn and face the strange changes. You're gonna have to be a different man. Time may change me, but I can't waste time. Hey, it's Django from Calvander Sound. This is the first of a series called Anatomy of a Song, and today we're looking at David Bowie's wonderful song, Changes. What we're going to do here is we're going to analyze it and take it apart and kind of figure out what makes it work. And I hope that you will let me know if there are other songs that you'd like to do in the future, and we'll check that out too. Our first thing before we analyze a song is we've got to make sure we're on the same page about what is natural to the key. In other words, the diatonic harmony. You're going to be hearing about it a lot. Diatonic harmony just means what are the chords that fit in the key. The reason we need to know that is we need to be aware of when chords are not coming from that group of chords. In other words, when chords are borrowed from another key. Those are big clues to what's important in a song and what makes it work. So our key here is C major. So the chords in C major are C, D minor, E minor, F, G or G7, A minor, B minor 7 flat 5, and back to C. So anything that's not one of those chords should send up a big sign, a big flag that says, hey, this is a borrowed chord, this is non-diatonic, this probably is an important moment in the song. So the verse is fairly straightforward. It's C, E minor, F, F over G, back to F, back to C. So pretty diatonic. The F over G is called a slash chord, and it's basically what happens when you have an F chord with a G in the bass. Another way to look at it, there's always two ways to look at unusual chords, is that it's a G9 with a suspended fourth. So it's like a G9 chord, which is a dominant, which makes sense for the 5 chord. But instead of a third, it's got a 4. I also call it the 80s sitcom chord because it usually is the end of a lot of 80s sitcom theme songs. And it's usually followed by like a doorbell. Ding dong, Mom, I'm home. So this is a really nice way to start out because it's rising, but it's contained. And then the second time, it's almost like a call and response within chords, because instead of going 4, 5, 4, it goes 4, 5, and gets to the actual G chord. So it's going just a bit further than the first line. So it's never knew what I was waiting for, but my time was running wild, million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I had it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. Then we're mining the same territory, except for we're walking up the diatonic chords. So I turned myself to face it. So it's C, D minor, E minor. So just walking up the chords in the key. But then we kind of come back down. Again, it's all these kind of climbing action chords followed by coming back down, going a little further, coming back down. It's building up tension that's eventually going to release in the chorus. So I turn myself to face it, and we come down chromatically. We get that chord in between the 3 and the 2. But I never caught a glimpse at the others and seen the faker. They're much too fast to take that test. So that's the same thing twice, but this time it goes, after only 2 beats, it goes changes, and it thrusts us into the chorus. So the fact is, it's setting up an expectation. 1, 2, da, 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 da. And it's going to do it again. C, D minor, E minor, E flat minor, D minor, G, F. And then we're in the chorus, and the chorus is this massive hook. Here is the thing that makes that chorus so hooky and so memorable. And it's a great lesson in general for looking at songs and trying to figure out how they work, and also for writing your own songs and making them work. keep an eye on the bass line. The bass notes are the key to so much in terms of harmonic movement. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. Here's the bass line. So it's, if I were playing a bass, it could go lower, but basically it's walking down a C major scale. So face the strange changes. Pretty soon now you're gonna get older. Changes. And here's one little part that I want to point out. It's one of the most amazing little songwriting turns that happens here. It's this short measure here when it gets to the end of the walk down. So face the strange. So it's C, C over B, C over A minor or A minor 7, C over G, F, F over E, D minor, G, F. So when we're expecting 4 beats but we only get 2 instead, it makes us kind of jump. It feels like it's coming in early, and that's a really important kind of element of surprise that happens in this song. And it also makes this descending scale bass line almost into this kind of Mobius strip that just keeps going down. You just can't figure out how it keeps going down. Now we get to the very final hook. And this, we're getting out of our normal scale thing and we're jumping around in chords. There's a logic to it, but it's kind of disorienting, which works with the idea of changes just coming all the time. So it's A minor, G, B flat, F. Time may change me. Again, David Bowie is a great student of call and response. You can hear that's kind of a question. Time may change me, but I can't waste time. So it's like this beautiful little symmetry. A minor, G, B flat, F, which is 4 to 1. E minor, D minor, G, C, which is 1 to 4. So it's the chords and the lyrics are both kind of responding to each other. Time may change me. It's going up. The chords are going down. Time may change me. This kind of counterpoint of the chords going from B flat down to F, but the melody going change me, going up. Then kind of the same kind of structure. E minor, D minor, G, C. And so it's like, but I can't waste time. And the melody on the second time goes down while the chords go up. This beautiful symmetry of chord and melody, call and response is really key to what makes this hook happen so beautifully and memorably. Now at this point you might be wondering, what about those non-diatonic chords, the chords that aren't from the key that we talked about at the beginning? Well, really there are only a couple of them in this song, and they come at interesting moments. The first one we talked about is in the verse. It's just a little passing chord going from E minor to E flat minor to D minor. A passing chord is a chord that doesn't have to really have an excuse for its existence, except for that it's between 2 other chords that are in the key, and that it's getting used somewhere in an interesting way. It's just moving chromatically by half step. Now the other one is a little bit more interesting because if you recall, C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, and B minor 7 flat 5 are all the chords in the key. On the chorus, there is one chord that happens right at the hook of the song, which is time may change me. Now that chord is a B flat. It's the 4 of the 4. It's a really common thing to do, to put in the 4 of the 4. So it's also known as a flat 7 chord, because if C is 1, then B minor 7 flat 5 is the 7, but a flat 7 would be B flat. So it's a way to lead to the F, lead to the 4 chord. So we go A minor, G, B flat, F. On the hook of the song. Time may change me, and it just brings that word out into like especially emotional and kind of colorful relief. Now there's one other section I want to look at, which is the bridge. You've got a great verse, you've got a great chorus, you've got this unbelievable iconic hook. What else do you need? Maybe nothing, but in this case the bridge takes us into the kind of the rock and roll, straight ahead boogie blues world that's a little less highfalutin and artsy, and just kind of takes us into a different scene. So strange fascinations are killing me. All changes are taking the place I'm going through. Changes. So it's two chords. If you've got a really chordy verse and chorus, the last thing you need is another complex part. If you're going to add a bridge, make it dead simple, and that's what he does. It's just a 1 and a 4 chord, starting on the 4 chord. So it's basically just turning it into a blues for a second. F to C. 5, and then again this half measure. Kicks you right into the chorus in overdrive. One thing to take from this is whatever you've done so far on your song, make sure that if you're adding another section that there's contrast. There's so many ways to do that, and we'll talk about those in other song anatomies, but this is a great example of how he uses a really simple bridge to set off this fairly complex chorus and verse in terms of the chord structure. So I hope this is helpful, I hope this is fun. Let me know what you think in the comments. Definitely subscribe to my channel so that you can find out when new videos come up. And you can always contact me at calvandersound.com. So thanks for listening, we'll talk soon.